And now, the time fight fans all across the globe have been waiting for. It's the main card with your man, The Voice. As always, in the opposite corner, my mano y mano, my verbal sparring partner, Philly's finest, and the king of cap, Wildress Ruffin. And by cap, I mean king of making sure you have nice, different caps.
Yeah, I got it. I got it. I'm excited to be here, ladies and gentlemen. You already know what it is. It's the main card with your man Wildress and the man, of course, the man, the myth, the legend, man, with his own T-shirt. You don't see the halo on his head, but you see another St. Louis hat.
That bubble bone, baby, yeah. Ooh.
It's my verbal sparring partner and big dog, The Voice. We have an amazing show for y'all. Y'all already know what time it is. It's smoke o'clock. Voice, how you feeling, man? You ready?
Oh man, I'm ready as a groom at the wedding banquet. I'm ready.
Okay, I've never been married. Anyway, we got some amazing things to get into y'all for today.
Just know the groom is ready to go.
We have 3 major fights to get into. Of course, we're going to talk about that Tyson Paul, and then we got UFC 309. But before we get into that, Voice, KOs and low blows, and we got some huge news. You ready?
Yes, sir.
Let's get into it. Recently, the Turkey Al-Sheikh, the chairman of the General Entertainment Authority, which regulates the entertainment industry in Saudi Arabia, has always made his intentions clear of making combat sports a fixture within the country. Well, Voice, he not only did it, but he did it in historic fashion. Speaking on X, he stated earlier this week, I finalized the deal to acquire 100% of Ring Magazine, and I want to make things clear. The print version of the magazine will return immediately after a 2-year hiatus, and it will be available in the US and UK market. The magazine will be fully independent with brilliant writers and focusing on every aspect in the sport of boxing. Excuse me. We will restore the legacy of the Ring rankings to its old mechanism with a fully independent panel that lives up to the Ring magazine golden era. He went on to say, we will continue to raise the prestige of the Ring titles, and plans are already in place underway to have a yearly extravagant award ceremony to celebrate the very best in the boxing industry. In the coming weeks, we intend to debut a brand new state-of-the-art website and mobile app. We are already in development for a line of Ring Magazine merchandise. The Ring Magazine will be a fully independent company without any involvement from Riyadh season. In the end, let's get the Bible of boxing to heights that it has never seen in the past. Now, Oscar De La Hoya announced that the deal was actually worth $10 million. I'm not sure exactly how correct that is, but this is a big deal, Voice. What do you make of the moves that Turkey is making?
This, now, I know Turkey said it's completely independent of Riyadh season, but it's not. I love it for Riyadh season. And I love it for what it is that Turkey has been doing and what he has been trying to do for a while, which is really create a UFC model for boxing. PBC is the closest thing to it. They started it, but financially, they didn't have the funds to make it the way that Turkey does, because he pretty much has an unlimited budget when it comes to those things. I mean, you just on a whim buy a magazine for $10 million. That's as much, if not maybe a little bit less, than he gave my man the Monster to be an ambassador. You know, so you buying a whole magazine and all the history for the same as you would pay for an ambassador. Craziness. Anyway, it's wonderful because now, as he's staging fights, he can ensure that they're being staged for Ring, which, as we talked about off air, the Ring belt is the most prestigious belt in boxing. You know, it's not WBC, although that gets a lot of play because it's green and it stands out. But the ring belt is the real belt because that's the one that follows the lineal champion. So, for instance, the current ring champion for heavyweight is Alexander Usyk. Well, you can run that all the way back to Ali and past Ali to the greats like the Brown Bomber, and even before him. That championship is lineal. It goes all the way back. So that has the most prestige. And to own Ring Magazine and have the ring belt associated with the things that you're doing, it really not even solidifies, but it helps to legitimize what it is that Turkey's doing.
I mean, it's amazing. And shout out to Awful Announcing. I actually checked them. Out of all the articles, they provided all the in-depth information on that. Shout out to them for that. I always believe in giving credit where credit is due. But it's amazing what's happening over the course of maybe the last 18 months in combat sports in general. You have the WWE TKO deal. You have many of these big fights being made. And now you have a prestigious magazine such as Ring Magazine making its return. And it sounds like it's going to be huge. So excited to see where that goes. I'm sure we're going to be covering more of that as more information comes out. So make sure y'all stay tuned to the main card and KOs and low blows, because that's what we'll be covering it.
Right. And speaking of all of the changes that have taken place recently, changes have been made to our show even. You know, I have been a big disparager of the people, I'll say. So I'm trying not to go full heel, but those who enjoy pro wrestling. But we got a pro wrestling spot now on the show, and it's been fun. I have to say it has been a lot of fun. Recently, WWE introduced a women's mid-championship card. It's the U.S. title, and that belt is fire. I wish I had enough time to pull it and put it on the images, but I didn't. But that belt looks phenomenal. My question regarding that, and there's a bunch of stuff going on with Survivor Series, War Games. You're seeing the things that are the precursors to that in NXT and in SmackDown, and also on Raw. So got two different questions about what's going on in pro wrestling right now. One, tell us the importance of this title, because when it was announced, a lot of the women got very excited about it. Tell us the importance specifically of it being a mid-card championship, and then I'll ask some questions about War Games after that.
Okay, so this is a huge deal. And there'll be an article, actually preparing an article for mtmvsports.com. You can actually find the article there at the end of this week on that as we go deeper into it. But a women's mid-card title is something that they've been wanting to do for years. The fans have been clamoring for it. The women have been clamoring for it. And with the recent women's North American title in NXT and the success that they had with their inaugural champion, Kalani Jordan, it just set the stage for something bigger. This gives the women a lot more chance for storylines, for television time, for even more character development. It gives them another sense of, outside of the two world titles that we have, along with the tag team titles, it's a game changer. If you think about your favorite mid-card championship feuds in WWE history, think about Ricky Steamboat and Randy Savage. You think about, Razor Ramon and Shawn Michaels in the ladder match. You might think about, even Stone Cold Steve Austin and The Rock before they elevated to main event status. Having mid-card titles speaks to the availability, especially when you look at the fact that Netflix and USA are going to be having 3-hour shows come January for both Raw and SmackDown. Not only is this huge, but I feel like, Voice, this is a precursor, and that we may also be getting an Intercontinental Women's title also. which would be amazing to have additional titles as the brand continues to grow. If you're a fan like me of NXT, you see how great that women's division is. They're continuing to get better over time, and then you're going to have more people come up when the draft actually takes place later this year. So having these titles, it gives more opportunities for women, and it creates an even more enjoyable chance for women and young girls to be able to be like, hey, we're here and we're here to stay.
Okay. You bringing up the Intercontinental title, there was another question I had about that. I wasn't going to ask it, but inquiring minds want to know. I want to know. So for those of us who are uneducated, what makes the Intercontinental title specifically so much more prestigious? Because it feels as if it has a different prestige than you said there's a North American title. That's in NXT, right?
Right. The North American title for both men and women is in NXT and was recently launched with the launch and the development of NXT. This is in the past few years. That's gaining its own prestige. When you think about the Intercontinental title for the men's title, you think about elevation. The Intercontinental title historically has been the title that many people get before they literally hit the big leagues. It's the workman's title. It's the workhorse title. It's had so many iterations and so many great champions that you can think of, from Bret Hart, Mr. Perfect, Razor Ramon, probably in my mind, the greatest Intercontinental champion ever. The Miz, who's had multiple reigns. The Rock and Stone Cold also. So the Intercontinental title has so much prestige because of what it means once you get it. It means literally I'm up next and my time is coming. And historically, you've seen that elevation happen. We've recently seen Brian Breaker and Jey Uso go back and forth with the Intercontinental title. So we see how important the Triple H the Triple H reign is as far as making these mid-card titles even more important, because this is a title that elevated him. So one of the things that I love about this regime is that they're bringing back the original fun of what it means to be a wrestling fan and bringing that prestige back. So we may have a chance to see the King of the Ring also being an elevator, just like we just saw with, Gunther winning and then winning that championship then. So the Intercontinental title literally represents prestige, and it's listen, I'm up next and it's my time. I'm putting y'all on notice.
Okay. All right. So while we're talking about pro wrestling and we're talking about the things that bring prestige and elevate people, who's going to be the fourth horseman in the new bloodline? You already talked about my picture. Just go with me. It was the best I could do. We know.
I mean, you missing the main character. I love you, Solo. You know what I mean? It's all good though. I get it.
I needed to say that for the marks. I mean, the fans who will be tuning in and looking at the show and like, wait a minute, you don't even have Jacob Fatu, who's the biggest thing in wrestling since wrestling was wrestling. And he is. No doubt about that. I love Jacob. I love the energy he brings.
I love you, Solo.
Just indulge me. So who fills that question mark as being the fourth man, especially with War Games coming and the need for that? I've got some ideas. I just want to know what you think.
So I have the answer already, because unfortunately, so Raw and SmackDown are both doing double tapings in preparation to allow the wrestlers to be home with their family for Thanksgiving before War Games. So I already have the answer and I don't want to spoil it. So for those of you who do know, you can put in the comments how you feel about it and what you think about it. I will say that the two people who will be joining the OG bloodline and the new bloodline are currently in a feud right now. They're in one of the biggest feuds in WWE, and one is a Samoan. I'll just put that out there. One is a Samoan and one is a visionary. So you make that what you will. and you take with that what you will. I'm not sure how many people are going to feel about it. Many people probably were just fine with just seeing the OG bloodline versus the new bloodline go at it. Even with all the changes, it's been amazing, and we still haven't even gotten Paul Heyman back in the fray yet.
Mm-hmm.
What I can say is that even with these two individuals being added, War Games is going to be crazy. If these two individuals who are added to the feud, and like I said, if you know, put it in the comments, tell us what you think about it. With these two being added, it does take it up a notch, but the partnerships are crazy. So I'll leave it there. So let us know what you think in the comments. Either way, Survivor Series War Games is going to be amazing. You've got the women's War Games match. You've got the men's War Games match. I'm sure that Final Testament and the Wyatt Six are probably going to be meeting in that also. So you have a lot of really great matches to prepare for right after you stuff your face with some food.
All right. Well, I know that a certain member of and I'm not going to try to say it, but the A clan, I'll say, recently made their way back to the WWE, or they've been signed. I don't know if they've started wrestling television matches or they're still doing dark matches, but that's my guess as to who that fourth person will be.
Oh no, he's already there. If you've been watching, you've seen him already. He's already there. He's been really dominant. I love the fact that he's getting a proper run, and he has the potential to have his own championship aspirations also.
Okay.
But I'm loving it. He's actually become one of my favorite wrestlers because he's box office every time you see him now. So
okay, well that's good. I'm glad to hear it, especially with this being like his third stint. He was giving me the Von Erich brother who had the brittle bones and was little. He was giving me his kind of vibes. It's like, you keep coming around and not quite working out. I don't know what's going on. You was a bodyguard and couldn't even bodyguard right. Just regular. I'm in the audience and you just need somebody hit in the audience kind of deal. So I'm glad to hear that things are turning his way.
Definitely. As we get closer to War Games, we'll definitely talk about it. I don't want to spoil it for people who haven't seen it, because I know people can get upset. But if you have seen it, let us know what you think in the comments about it, because it's huge.
All right. Well, on the other side of our Ozell break, we've got some huge news about the biggest fight this year, which shouldn't be, but it is. As well as what could be history in the making at the Mecca, Madison Square Garden. It's the main card. Keep it locked.
It's not just about the love of the game. It's about dedication and commitment through the process and the patience to endure. There's joy in reaching your goals and peace in knowing you've done all you're supposed to do. Ozell brand. It's not just a brand, it's a lifestyle.
And we're back. Shout out to the brand Ozell, man. Make sure that you're getting your cleats. Make sure you're getting your sneakers, your Bruce Voice Roys out there in that royal blue, so you can get your cacao on. As you like to say.
Them Battle Hawk stompers. Cacao.
Yeah, all that, whatever. Voice. After months of waiting, back and forths, injuries, and even a gifted pigeon, we're finally preparing for one of the most out-of-the-box box office bouts ever as Iron Mike Tyson steps back into the ring. Now, Mike Tyson, the man, the myth, legend, was originally set to fight on July 20th, but an ulcer flare-up in May pushed the bout to November against Jake Paul. The venue, AT&T Stadium in Arlington, Texas. The broadcast, streaming live on Netflix. That's right. So Netflix is bringing the epic battle to your living room, making it accessible to fans worldwide in a great card, if you're being honest. Now, sanctioned by the Texas Department of License and Regulations, this fight has some unique twists. Tyson and Paul will be throwing down with 14-ounce gloves instead of the usual 10, and each round will last 2 minutes rather than 3. The bout will go 8 rounds instead of the standard 10 to 12. So this ain't your typical heavyweight showdown. Now, Mike, 50-6, is known as the baddest man on the planet and was the first ever undisputed heavyweight champion of the 3-belt era. He hasn't competed in the real fight voice since 2005, and that's apart from the exhibition with Roy Jones Jr. that we all want to forget. Now, speaking with Sports Illustrated, Tyson admitted, when I agreed to this fight and I started training, I said, what the am I thinking? But now the fight's the party. And as the fight approaches, Mike's focus is sharpening. He promised to bring the devil himself to the ring. He said, listen, there are no feelings attached. My own mother should be very careful if she has to get in the ring with me. When it's over, it's over. But while the process is going on, my intention is to hurt him. And I hope he has the same intention or he's in trouble. Now, on the flip side, voice, Jake Paul, sporting that 10-1 record, is talking big. Not only is he predicting a knockout, but he's also already eyeing a future bout with Canelo Alvarez. Now, on the Timbo Sugar podcast, Paul proclaimed, this moment will prove I'm the face of boxing, the largest attraction. Me versus Canelo at 200 pounds for the Cruiserweight Championship of the world is the biggest fight, arguably even bigger than me and Mike. He added, Canelo is on his way out. He's going to want a payday, and I want to show the world all the stuff that I have. I've been talking about beating Canelo is actually true, and I'll actually have the biggest upset in the history of boxing. We'll fight to really see who is the face, because after this event, I'm going to be claiming it. Boys, there's a lot going on here. A lot of people have, including us, have been skeptical about this bout. Now, my question to you is, how, if any, do you think that this fight will impact the future of boxing?
As far as its impact on boxing, I think it remains to be seen. Here's some scenarios that could play out. Let's say Jake Paul does the unthinkable and stops Mike Tyson. And I say the unthinkable because I was speaking with our visionary of MTMV just before this, who will be in the building for the fight. You know, not as much, but he'll be there. And he was just speaking about how everybody in the barbershop doesn't give Jake Paul a chance. I was like, yeah, don't follow boxing then, because I didn't give him a chance against Tyron Woodley, and he beat him the first time by a split decision and then knocked him clean out the second time. I didn't give him a chance against Anderson Silva, who he knocked down. I didn't give him a chance against Tommy Fury, and I was right on that one. But for the most part, especially when it deals with these fringe kind of folks, Jake Paul has been able to be successful. So what is he going to do with a nearly 60-year-old man who admittedly has been abusing drugs and things of that nature throughout his life? Yeah, he looks good on the clips, but those clips are like 30 seconds. And the fight is going to, unless he catches him in that 30 seconds, it's going to be a little longer than that. The 2-minute rounds make it easier for Mike. And then again, on the flip side, let's say Mike turns back the clock and shocks the boxing world, because he wouldn't shock the world. The world thinks that Jake Paul doesn't have a chance, but the boxing world thinks the opposite way. If he turns back the clock and wins, because I can't put it past Mike, because you talked about the fight that we want to forget. We don't want to the boxing fans. We don't want to forget that fight between Tyson and Roy Jones Jr., because we thought it was going to be a farce, when in all actuality, that was the catalyst, or the true catalyst for legitimizing influencer boxing. You know, this wasn't some stream on YouTube that you paid $10 for. This is a real, fight. And since then, you've been seeing many more of these influencer, fights that have been taking place. And like I say, it really legitimized it. So, and the thing that really, again, just blew my mind was, how's Tyson, who hadn't fought in forever, doing better than Roy, who's been fighting? Like I did not expect to see that happen. So anything's possible. And this is the reason why the contests have to take place in the arenas, because on paper, things should go a certain way. But in real life, anything is possible.
We definitely gonna get a chance to see. I mean, with this boxing match, it's already been talked about. If Tyson comes out victorious, we could see Tyson and Lennox Lewis next. Lennox already called his shot on that, so it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. Possibly the biggest fight of the year, depending on who you ask. Tyson Paul, and it's got an amazing co-main event also that we're going to be getting into in a few moments here. But just kind of going off what's next, voice. I mean, we've got this is an amazing weekend. We got another great bout that's coming. Now, while the world talks in undisputed terms when they're talking about Jon Jones versus Stipe at UFC 309 in Madison Square Garden, one man has taken a different take. Tom Aspinall, the interim champ, is waiting in the wings for a unification bout, but that might not get the chance to happen. Stipe has been hinting at retirement post-fight when to lose, and Jones has made it clear he is not interested in facing Aspinall, preferring a bout with light heavyweight champion Alex Pereira instead. And this is something that Aspinall is not taking lightly. He stated on his YouTube channel, "For me, this is far from an undisputed title fight. This is the most disputed title fight that you can possibly have." And he's chosen to fight 42-year-old Stipe, who's had a fantastic career. Both guys have had fantastic careers, great legacy. But let's be honest, these are two old farts fighting each other for a title and occupying it, which is a bit weird. Nobody that I can see gives about the fight. Jones has been vocal in his criticism voice about Aspinall, pointing out that the interim champ has a lack of high-level wins against champions. John said, "I need to fight more champions, but this is the problem I've got. John is the champion, and he won't fight me. He says he won't fight me because it's too much of a gamble. John, if you're not into gambling your legacy, that to me sounds like you're scared of losing against me." Now, Stipe, on the other hand, he's heard the detractors in many cases. I mean, it's rightfully so. His title shot is coming after more than a 3.5 year of inactivity, with his last win back in August of 2020. He said, "In the beginning of my career, I was a little sensitive about it. Like, you don't know me. I don't know you, so why are you saying stuff about me? I would get terrible DMs and stuff like, what's wrong with you? You don't know me." And I literally just stopped caring because I realized they don't know who I am, and they don't know them, and I don't know them. They're just mad about something, and they're trying to take it out on me, and I couldn't care less, honestly. This is the best thing I've ever done in my life." And finally, Jon Jones has dismissed Aspinall and thrown shade at Stipe at the same time. He's even talked about dropping the title if he wins and facing Pereira instead. He went on to say, "It would be cool to fight over the heavyweight championship, but I'd also willingly give up that heavyweight championship. I walked away from the light heavyweight championship, and I would love to walk away from this one as well on top. I love the position that I'm in right now. Fighting Pereira for the BMF belt, that will be cool. We both have 2 belts in 2 weight classes, and the night we fight, we'd be fighting for our 3rd belt, which would be the BMF. How cool would that be?" Voice. The heavyweight championship looks to have more disputes than a credit report. If you're Dana White, give me scenarios on how this is fixed, depending on the winner.
Well, Jon Jones has laid out how it's fixed. Actually, win, lose, or draw, he's laid out how it's fixed. Now, granted, I can't see in a loss it going that way, because it's too much money on the table for Jon to leave in a rematch to try to avenge his first true loss. He's even been practicing 12 to 6 elbows, which was the reason that he suffered his first loss against Matt Hamill when he was using that illegal strike and incapacitated Hamill to the point where he could not continue to fight. But he's been practicing them now that they're legal, and looks to drop that hammer down on Stipe. Stipe, like Mike, but with a better opportunity, has the goods to shake up the world. John has fought one fighter at heavyweight, and it was that quick. I mean, it was so quick. John was even not happy with the turnout because like I didn't get a chance to like do anything, like to work on anything. It was too easy, and people are looking at me like, oh, you just took a really super easy fight. That's why you were able to do this coming off the couch for 3 years. Stipe has he has the ability to keep things standing, although I am reminded that some other people have taken him down in the past. But he's got that D3 wrestling, and he's got that Golden Gloves boxing, and he has less wear and tear on him. Granted, he is much older, but this is heavyweight. It's okay to be older at heavyweight. He could literally stamp himself as being the true GOAT, not just the heavyweight GOAT, but the GOAT. If he is to beat John Jones, beating the GOAT, you know, he could do that and say, oh, well, you know, it's heavyweight or whatever, but he would have an argument for that to be in that Mount Rushmore conversation. Where for Jones, again, if he wins, hey, it's another day at the office, dropping the belt, fighting for the BMF title. Oh my goodness. That is matchmaking extraordinaire. Like, sign me up for that, especially with BMF, because the BMF is it's a one-time kind of deal. So having that fight against Alex Pereira at a third weight class, giving Alex the opportunity to win a belt at a third weight class and really stamp himself even more so than what he's done in this very short period of time. The only thing that would cheapen that is that he wouldn't be the full champ at heavyweight. But yeah, I mean, it's great. But if Stipe is victorious, definitely a rematch. If John is victorious, what he's laid out is pretty good. I mean, right now, Alex Pereira is the hottest item, hottest commodity that the UFC has. To link yourself in a fight with him, especially if it's like this is it, you know, this is my retirement fight. Oh my goodness, yeah, I'm excited just thinking about it. Add the BMF to that Joker, man. that's phenomenal. But yeah, if Stipe were to win, again, it's the rematch. If he were to win twice, would he fight Aspinall? I don't know. I think Aspinall still would be. He probably has another interim title defense to go if Stipe is victorious. If John is victorious, then I see him being elevated the same way that Robert Whittaker was elevated to the full title when Michael Bisping and GSP fought.
It's going to be a big deal. One of the biggest fights, it's another biggest fight of the year, depending on who you ask. And it just feels like this is the weekend for it. We have so many amazing things, and that's not even it. Boys, here on the main card, we know that sequels can be a hit or miss. Sometimes they live up to the hype. Other times they leave us wishing that they never happened. You either going to get a House Party 2 or you're going to get a Coming to America. But what do you do, voice, when the first round go was so close that a do-over is practically demanded? Enter Katie Taylor and Amanda Serrano. They're set to square off once again as a co-main event of the Tyson Paul bout. And if you remember, in their initial bout, 2 judges saw it for Taylor and 1 for Serrano. Many fans actually felt it was an instant classic, leaning slightly more towards Serrano, who managed to land some significant shots that visibly hurt Taylor. So it was intensely competitive and a huge victory for women's boxing, and it elevated their profiles of both of the fighters to new heights. Now, Katie Taylor is speaking with the kind of confidence that suggests she's not just ready for the rematch, she's calling her shot, but respectfully. She was speaking, she said she's obviously a great fighter. She was actually speaking to The Guardian about Serrano. She said, I love to box, but I do get drawn into a fight like this one. Both of our mentalities are that we're going to go and do whatever it takes to win the fight. So it's going to be another explosive night. I'm just excited to go in there and perform because I think my best will beat Serrano's. Now, Serrano, meanwhile, is just as confident or certain that she believes she won the previous bout. With victories in her last 5 since that loss to Taylor, she's not just excited for the rematch, she's amped about the historic significance, voice. This fight promises to be the largest purse for a women's bout in history. She went on to say, obviously the fans wanted this fight. I believe I won the first fight. So when my team said it's going to be on Netflix in a big stadium, 80,000, I said, let's do it. We gave an iconic first fight, headlined in Madison Square Garden, selling it out. And I think we're just going to do better this time. We're both deserving of this platform to represent women in this sport, and it's truly an honor. I'm super proud. I have an amazing team that put this fight on, and I can't wait. I know I'm going to go out there and put on a show. I'm ready. I know Katie's ready, and you're going to witness women's boxing history at its finest. Voice, it's just goosebumps thinking about it. What are your thoughts on what these two are saying and the impact that this has on the women's sport in general?
Well, let's first pay homage to the fact that when Katie Taylor, who has a claim of being the greatest, Clarissa, don't come for me, but she has a claim to being the greatest. Even though she does have that loss to Chantel Cameron, it was a majority decision, and she came back and won it, although that was a majority decision as well. But when it comes to boxing and really women's boxing and the face thereof, it's Katie Taylor. So for her to have this fight at 140 pounds, which is up 5 pounds from when they fought last time, and being a champion, having gone through some of the wars and things and being tested the way that she has. Amanda Serrano said in the press conference how they've both tasted defeat now. And that creates a different atmosphere and a different kind of fighter than one who's fighting to preserve their oath. You know, you kind of come at it with a different aspect because you have less to lose. Which, sorry to go back to that UFC fight. That's why if they did make that BMF title fight between Jones and Pereira, especially with that probably being Jones' last fight, I would love it because you got nothing to lose. So you just go out there and you just do whatever. Not granted, you could lose your old, but you're going out anyway. So it really doesn't matter. These ladies are fighting for legacy. You stated the fact that it's going to most likely be the highest paid fight in women's history. Let's not forget that the first time these ladies fought, they made history. More people watched that fight than any other women's fight ever. It was in Madison Square Garden, where UFC 309 is going to take place. But it was there. And it might be 308, whatever one is coming up. It's in Madison Square Garden. Everyone was watching it, and it was on DAZN before DAZN got the level of popularity that it has now. You know, it wasn't as much of a household name as it is now. But you got over 1 million people on DAZN watching this fight, and they lived up to the hype. The thing that I remember most about this fight was that even though Serrano hurt Taylor in that 5th round, most of the fight, it seemed as if Serrano was just undersized. Her last fight was at 136, being Serrano, and she definitely is on the tail end of her career. will she have enough for Taylor at 140 when she seemed undersized at 135? Will her power carry? Because that was part of the issue with the size, was that at a certain point, looked like Serrano was hitting her with everything, but Taylor kept coming forward, where when Taylor landed her shots, they seemed much more impactful. It is going to be a phenomenal fight. This really is the main event. You just have to put Tyson and Paul at the top of it because they are the main attraction. Like, they're the main attraction, but this is the main event.
Yeah, I mean, it's exciting. And it's ironic you said that about the main event, because I've seen a few articles in preparing for this stating that people feel as though Taylor Serrano should be the main event of this bout. So when you got two co-main events where they're literally jockeying for position, we have the opportunity to see two great fights. But just to think of how amazing this weekend is going to be great. Ladies and gentlemen, this is MTMV Sports. This is what we do. We are the fans. We go in, we do the research, and we just express our love for the sport in a different way than everybody else does. If you haven't followed us, please make sure that you follow us on all social media. And if you cannot see these beautiful faces online, you can take us wherever you follow your favorite podcast, Spotify, Apple, wherever. Just make sure that you like, share, subscribe, and follow us wherever you go, because we want to be where you at. Before we end, Voice, I know you got a couple more final fights for us on already an amazing weekend. Tell us what you got.
Man, you know I do, and it is a phenomenal weekend of fights. There's a whole nother card taking place in Saudi Arabia. That's right, Mexico to Saudi Arabia. It's Latin night for Riyadh season, where you got Zerto taking on Billum Smith for the cruiserweight title. You have so many other wonderful boxing matches that are taking place, including the fight between Shushu Carrington and Caldwell. You know, so that's going to be phenomenal. Shushu from Brownsville. Mike Tyson wanted him to be on this card because of the Brownsville connection, and Shushu remaking Tyson's famous post-fight statement about my defense is impregnable, my uppercuts are unimaginable, and whatever else he said. Shushu did that recently, and he was like, I want him on the card. You also have Mario Barrios fighting on this card in that super stack division that he's in, putting his title on the line. I couldn't even get his picture to put it on the slide. You got Chandler Oliveira too. What? And it's 5 rounds? What? Oh my goodness. That I doubt it's gonna go 5. They probably won't even make the 3 if they had made it that. Absolutely craziness. How will Chandler's time away impact him? Will he have rust to work off, or was that time what he needed to heal up and win? Because he was this close to being the champion in that fight with Oliveira until things turned in that second round. You got Bo Nickel fighting Paul Craig. This is the stiffest competition that Bo Nickel has ever had, and this really is a excellent litmus test, because Paul Craig separates the wheat from the chaff. You know, he lets you know who's a sheep and who's a goat, and not a goat in a good way. We're talking about the eating anything kind of goat, but he's a great litmus test and has some of the most last minute wins in the history of the UFC. So he's never out of it. It's going to be an excellent fight night, or just fight weekend. I love it. It's my birthday weekend too. So, you know, all the, you know, just low key Golden Boy and the UFC and MVP. They were like, you know what? It's the Voices weekend. He is the voice. So let's just give him all this stuff because of how wonderful he is. And for that, I say thank you.
There you have it. So this is why we're getting all these great fights, because the man, the myth, the legend It's his date of birth, and we're going to be celebrating that. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us. You've got some amazing bouts to get into this weekend. Make sure that you tune in. But we also want to hear from you. Let us know in the comments what you think. Who do you have winning each bout? What did you think about the WWE segment and the Women's Championship? And who do you think will be the first inaugural champion? Who should be the first one? This is MTMV Sports. Boys, take us out.
Until next time, fight the good fight.